Pope sent a challenge great and far. Shirley, meet me in your door and I'll learn ye the Earth's a war if you'll meet me in the morning. Hey, Johnny Cope, are you walking yet? Are your drums a beating yet? If you were walking now, it'd wait to get to the coals in the morning. When Shelley looked the letter upon, he drew his sword to scabbard from. Follow me, my merry, merry men, and we'll meet Johnny Cope in the morning. Hey, Johnny Cope, are you walking yet? Are your drums a beating yet? If you were walking now, it's way to get to the coals in the morning.
Hi guys, what's going on? And welcome back to another video on Conqueror's Blade. So today we are going to be diving into the Houndsmen, who just got released literally today. I'm actually up to date on a unit video for once. Don't get used to it. I think this is probably going to be a bit of a one-off. But I actually really wasn't sure how this unit was going to perform in the current meta. I kind of didn't know if they were really going to have a place. But actually, so far, been really pleasantly surprised. And I have really enjoyed playing this unit. Obviously, so far I've had sort of 15, 20 battles with them, something like that. So we'll probably end up having a follow-up video on this, but I just wanted to get out my initial thoughts on sort of, is it worth unlocking? We'll kind of run through now a little bit how the unit works, and then we'll have a little bit of a look at the Veterancy line and some of the Doctrines I'm running with them as well. In terms of their abilities, they basically get 3 unit orders. A hunting stance, which is where they fire 3 shots in rapid succession. It also triggers the bleed, so it adds quite a lot of bleed stack to it, and if the dogs attack at the same time, then the bleeding enemy, the bleeding effect will be increased. And it's important to note that the bleeding effect is big, it's quite significant. Even their normal attack has a bleed. You're looking like 600, 1000 tick bleeds. We're on to Namcan levels of bleed here. It's pretty significant, and it's going to take down people pretty quickly. And we'll see when we get onto the archers in some gameplay how much damage the archers actually do and how much of an impact the bleed damage has. Beyond that, we get a hobbling shots, which is where they fire sort of 4 or 5 volleys in a designated area. It then causes a slow effect on the enemy. And then it's the same, if the hounds attack, then that slow effect gets increased, which is kind of cool. I quite like this. I use it in conjunction really just for sort of getting the damage out, the rapid fire. But it's also quite nice if you want to target, you know, some fairly close unit of enemy archers kind of to the side. You can use it to target that. We'll see in one of the clips where I use it to target some longbowmen. And obviously it wipes them out really rather rapidly because you're doing like a 5-shot rapid fire at them. And yeah, they don't really stand all that much of a chance. And finally, we of course have the dogs charge. Basically just a charge order which gets the dogs to charge out in a certain direction. You technically get a heal ability, so after like 5 seconds you could press heal and they come back, but after 4 or 5 seconds they basically auto-return anyway, so I'm not really bothering using the heal all that often. In terms of stat-wise, we actually know the dogs' stats. They get 4800 health and 300 on all the defensive attributes, but they actually feel, to me at least, more tanky than that. They don't feel that fragile. It might just be because they're really small, so it's actually hard for enemies to hit them. But yeah, they seem to survive at least reasonably well. Archer-wise, obviously they are fairly fragile, not got anything particularly much on the defensive stat front. And in terms of their base damage, it isn't that impressive. Particularly on the piercing armor penetration, I wish I could get that up to the sort of 1600s. Then I think that would be really rather nice. But 1477 with the Doctrine, it's obviously struggling a little bit. But that bleed almost makes up for it. You've got 2 Veterancy line options. Broadly speaking, the bottom line is dogs, and broadly speaking, the top line is archers. But there are obviously a bit of intermingling in there. I like the extra range, things like the hunting stance's base damage increase, which is really nice, and another 8% there. Combined with a sort of 15% damage reduction, a little bit of extra piercing damage, and a 9% is a fairly significant amount. Obviously the movement speed, which ties in down here, which gives them an insane base movement speed, so they're an extremely mobile unit. The increased ammo, extra 10% damage to infantry, which is really nice to get, and a final ability that doesn't really make a lot of sense. Supposedly they're saying that hobbling shots now triggers hunting stance. Well, hunting stance is the rapid fire, and hobbling shots is, well, hobbling shots, so it doesn't really actually work like that. At least I've not found it to work like that in battles, and it doesn't really make a lot of sense. So I suspect there's a mistranslation there. I wonder if it's supposed to be hobbling shots now triggers trained hunters, which is the bleed effect, but it doesn't actually seem to do that either. So bit of a mystery, at least on this one. And you do at least get a couple of the extra nodes along the bottom, which is basically affecting the slowdown from hobbling shots, which is nice to have. In terms of doctrine-wise, mostly putting archery ones on there. 50% extra ammo. These guys do shoot fast. Quite nice to have that ammo. It means they have a really good stack of ammo. Increased piercing damage and piercing armor penetration, and then just a flat 100 piercing damage increase. So you can see how this is what's starting to make the unit good. You can see why we're managing to get this base damage up. So we've got an extra 200 piercing damage flat there, added on to the extra piercing, 50 piercing AP. And we know on the Veterancy line, we're getting an extra 9% there. If you went the bottom Veterancy line, didn't have the epic Doctrines, your piercing damage is going to be significantly lower. You're going to be losing quite a lot. You're going to be down to like 1,000 or just above. And so you can see how it can all start to add up and make a difference. I have gone for the Houndsman Toughness Doctrine to give that 10% damage reduction. And finally, I've just gone for a base piercing AP Doctrine. Because otherwise you're at 1400 and really it wants to be higher. I'm almost tempted to use one of my purple Doctrine boxes to get a 110 piercing armor penetration just to take it into the 1500 range. And I think that could actually make quite a difference. The Doctrine that you actually get from the missions seems completely crap. It's like buying organic carrots. It's pointless. It doesn't really seem to add anything, and so I'm not sure I'm going to be really putting that on, but I may be adding on the extra 100 points of bleed damage that you get from the final Doctrine in the seasonal challenges. But I wanted to leave some of the challenges for me to actually unlock, so I haven't spent sovereigns to unlock that one yet. Anyway, I think I've probably waffled enough there. Let's get into some battles. Let's see what we can do, and let's hopefully gnaw some people to death with our dogs. See you all in the battle. And for today's battle, Fulhamburg. Not a too bad a map, don't hate it too much, at least not recently. Had a little bit of a shoddy start on this one though, not really gone according to plan. Lost my Palace Guards pretty early on, trying to hold A, and basically Fulham straight back to the base point. I was almost wanted to go out and defend C there, but it's such a terrible point to try and defend, and it is a mistake almost always to try and do it, so I have the sense to come back inside. I have a little bit of a go at trying to do some long-range archery on the supply point. I just don't think the arrows really reach the point, they certainly don't register any damage. But as we turn around, there's actually enemies flooding through the gate straight from the sea, which kind of caught me off guard. And we get off to a little bit of a shaky start with the archers. First, I go on with my triple shots, and they manage to basically donk all the shots into the floor. So then I go for my hobbling shot, which goes a lot more accurate. Because we're shooting into the rear, we're getting critical hits. And look how quickly we're building up damage. And there we go, our first hero kill with our dogs. Obviously our dogs are currently well in the fight. There they go, they've just returned to us. And then as soon as they come back, I'm just sending them straight back out again. Second hero kill as our dogs slam in. We picked up 20, 25 kills here, 30 kills maybe. They do quite a lot of damage quite quickly, and that was really at the maximum range for the archers. Just as we come past, there's actually a few grey hairs here, just with their backs turned, and we basically wipe them out in one volley with the archers. The archers do have really good damage, and when you combine it with their bleed, that's where they get really quite impressive as a unit. And actually, you saw in that case, the dogs held up fairly well. We maybe lost a third of the unit of dogs. But actually, we really sort of helped contribute to stopping that push because of the damage output. But anyway, we send them back to the supply point. Start to get them healed up. I head over that way to meet them as they come out. And we peel around this way because I'm thinking about going up back on the wall. But as we come round, there's a load of enemies back on the point. I didn't realise they were going to really be pushing quite so hard. Dogs go in automatically. Pick up our third hero kill. As the unit then starts firing, and we are not firing into crappy units here, we're shooting into Madao and stuff like that, but we're still picking up kills really quickly. And a lot of it isn't just the base damage, although that certainly helps, but it's that bleed damage as well, really continuing to stack in, really continuing to do quite a lot of damage. The dogs basically end up getting killed at this point, there's just too much stuff in there. But look, we're up to about 60 kills now with the unit, 100 kills total. As the unit just keeps pummeling these arrows in, and they fire so quickly, and the damage is so good, that they just do loads and loads of damage. Combine that with the fact that they actually really have an awful lot of ammo as a unit, then they can just really just keep firing. And with that bleed stacks, it's just super brutal. We get in with a hero, lock up at the back of these paladins just so they couldn't try and charge, because if they get charging into my unit they could do quite a bit of damage. Have to pull back a little bit because I was getting a bit low on health, but unit is still there firing, up to 130 kills, so they just keep merrily blasting away. I was kind of surprised we didn't get Treb, to be honest, and I thought I saw one coming there just right at the end, but actually it was landing in a slightly different spot. I send the unit back to go and grab some more ammo, because they're down to sort of the last quarter, but the enemy are still actually pushing this final base point pretty hard. I put the unit back to the back as I then sort of go into my hero, so if I do get myself killed, the unit will at least get itself into position and start shooting. See some axe raids and stuff coming in, another stack of medals. Unfortunately, I get hit by that jav volley, and I get myself killed. Damn. But the unit gets back in position, and look how much damage they're taking out. Unit of Keshings runs behind them, they just turn and start lacerating them with the arrows. And look how much damage they're putting into the point. They're not using any abilities here even. This is just on the auto attack. No dogs, just the archers. And look how quickly they pick up kills. And they're not shooting just peasants here. There's a lot of Madao on this point. A lot of other sort of really high tier stuff. They're just pummeling the shots in. The bleed damage is seriously high. It starts to look bad. We're starting to get pushed back. The unit is still firing, and it does still pick up a few more kills, well over 160 now, as they keep firing in. But unfortunately, it's just not quite enough to actually save this game. But it shows what the unit can do. Fortunately, obviously, they retreat there right at the end as I spawn in, but can't get back in time. The damage potential of the archers is really high. They are not crappy archers. And then when you combine that with the fact that the dogs are also really quite good, it just makes for a really stellar unit. I do find the dogs tend to struggle a little bit more in those really sort of larger fights, but for me the dogs are a bonus. It's the archers where it's really at. They almost act a little bit more like a musket unit. You do get some sort of longer range with the hobbling shots, but by and large I'm tending to use them close range for their DPS. Their DPS is really high, and that's really where they seem to excel to me. And then the dogs are really just a bonus, particularly on those one-on-one fights, because they really act as, one, a good way of safeguarding the unit because they get in the way and it allows the archers to keep shooting, but also they actually have really good damage potential as well. And on this clip you can see we're able to quite comfortably push through the point, pick up sort of 30-40 kills really rather quickly, and then push on and help with the capture. I send my one dog off to try and see if we can get any kills on those archers as we move on to go and capture the point. And I just wanted to show you that they still have some anti-archer. Look, those enemy longbows in a distance outside my range, but I can still use the hobbling shots, and it takes them out really rather comfortably. Because that base piercing damage is rather high, it can just wipe them out without really causing too much of a trouble. So yeah, initial impressions, really a very nice unit. Really enjoying it. Bleed stacks are lovely. A few more doctrines and stuff to pick up. The one from the set of missions is really a little bit crap, but the one from the seasonal challenges seems to be quite nice. The extra plus 100 bleed damage. I'll certainly be picking that one up shortly, and we'll probably end up having a second video on these before too long. Anyway, hopefully you've enjoyed it. If you have, let me know what you think in the comments down below, and of course subscribe to the channel for lots more Conqueror's Blade content. Thanks for watching, guys. I shall see you all on the next one.